start here with a little bit of housekeeping. Just give you a little warning that although there's been a recent uptick in my production of these videos, I am about to head into a university semester, and because of that, I'm not going to be able to continue this search at uploading at this rate. So, if you've requested something in the past, please know that I will get to your video or your request. However, I don't know when. So I've currently got probably about 20 requests that I'm working through in order, and I hope to continue at a relatively stable pace throughout my semester. But although I am not working this semester, I am taking on an extra course or two. I'm not sure yet, so I will be taking 6 or 7 courses, and I tend to put a lot of energy into my coursework, so hopefully I can find the time to make these videos, because they really relax me as well. It's quite therapeutic, honestly, to make these videos. Spend an hour here and there, casually viewing a map, or GeoGuessr, or whatever it may be. So, thank you for joining me. If you like these videos, please hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I've noticed that about 50% of my viewers are not subscribed. 50% of the returning viewers are not subscribed, and it really helps. It really helps when you're subscribed. So, with that out of the way, we're going to get to today's video. So this video is going to be another request, of course. This one is from Aviation Gaming, and I'm very excited about this one because it's a city that I've learned about in school a little bit, and I've also wanted to visit. Boston, Massachusetts. I always think I pronounce Massachusetts wrong. You're gonna have to let me know. But anyway, I'm quite excited about this because, as a North American city, Boston is quite unique because, you can just kind of tell from above how messy it looks, messy and organic, compared to a city like on the West Coast. Like, let's compare it to Los Angeles for a second here, or even Denver. Los Angeles, it has some of that messiness, but for the most part, very grid-oriented structure, east-west grids. Sometimes the grids are on a bit of an angle, with Santa Monica. But for the most part, everything was developed around the car. And if we go to a city like, that's BC. Where's Denver? I think this is Denver right here. Is it? Yeah, I think this is Denver. It really doesn't help that I don't have the nice, like, suburban. It's got this nice grid in the middle, and then it kind of tapers off into this, like, curvilinear suburban street, car-oriented kind of grid. But Boston is unique in that it looks really squirrely in the middle, and it stays squirrely even as you go out to these other satellite centers. It's quite messy and everything looks rather disorganized, so it's going to be fun to take a look at that. But the first thing we need to do is quickly switch to the Wikipedia article. I have not read any of this yet. This is kind of off the cuff as usual, but we're going to do this together. So Boston. Officially, the city of Boston is the capital and most populous city in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. That's what it is. Let me look at the pronunciation of this here. Massachusetts. Okay. So I think previously I was adding a T in there somewhere, like Massachusetts, and that's wrong. So, my apologies. Massachusetts. Yeah, Massachusetts. Okay. That's kind of cool how they call the state a Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I didn't know that before now. In the United States, and 24th most populous city in the country. The city proper covers 48.4 square miles, with a population of 675,647 in 2020, also making it the most populous city in New England. Okay, so this population, 675,647, it's not a relevant number. The relevant number that really matters here is the metro population, which is 4,941,632. And because it is, like, if you look at the borders, if we click on Boston here, you will see, oh, maybe Quincy. Okay, so there's some cities that actually show the borders, but as you can see, the borders are fairly arbitrary for these cities. What about Brookline? No, it doesn't show it. You know, I think the best place to show how arbitrary borders can be is Los Angeles, so we're gonna pop over there again. If I click on Los Angeles, look what it shows. Look how arbitrary the border is. It stretches all the way down here. It kind of, you know, there's this corridor here that's dedicated to Los Angeles. Part of Santa Monica is in Los Angeles, but not this part of Santa Monica. Beverly Hills is its own city. Ladera Heights, Inglewood, Hawthorne, Compton, like all of these places are their own city. Pasadena, Glendale. But then you have the San Fernando Valley, which is still part of Los Angeles, except for San Fernando itself. And that's what makes these numbers when they say that there's X population in Los Angeles or in Boston. That number doesn't matter because it's only counting the people inside this red line. It's not counting the person living on, you know, the other side of that border. But the thing is, those people are neighbors. Their lives are going to interact with each other. They're going to be driving across that border every day. They're going to be going to work in Los Angeles if they live in Anaheim, for example, or San Bernardino. And so they are all part of the same city. And that is important, I think, so that's why I've always looked at the metro number, because that way you can compare Boston, wherever it is, where is it, there it is, that way you can compare Boston with Los Angeles, and you're going to get an apples-to-apples comparison. Oh, here, look. I'm sorry if today I'm a little bit high energy. It's because I just get really excited by this stuff, and Boston in particular is an exciting place. But you can see the border here. It's rather, again, it's kind of arbitrary. It doesn't include anything outside that is still within the commuting range. Like, they call that the commuter shed. The commuter shed of the city is the area from which people commute into the downtown from. And that is the true definition of the city. So, metro population is the one that matters. Okay, so let's continue. The county government was disbanded in '99. The city is the economic and cultural anchor of a substantially larger metropolitan area known as Greater Boston, a metropolitan statistical area home to a census estimated 4.8 million people. In 2016, ranking as the 10th largest MSA in the country, a broader combined statistical area generally corresponding to the commuting area, and including Providence, Rhode Island. That's what I was talking about, commuting area right there. So if you include Providence, it's home to 8.2 million people. Let's just check the map here. Providence is right here, yeah, so it's very close. I'm pretty sure people are probably doing a lot of commuting from Rhode Island here. Wait. Yeah, Rhode Island, Connecticut. Okay, Rhode Island into Boston. Let's take a look at Greater Boston here for a second. Nothing too crazy interesting. There's a little bit of planning here. The most restrictive definition of the Greater Boston area is the region administered by the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. Not too much interesting to see here. Okay, let's get rid of that. Boston is one of the oldest municipalities in the United States. It was the scene of several key events of the American Revolution, such as the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party, the Battle of Bunker Hill, and the Siege of Boston. Upon American independence from Great Britain, the city continued to be an important port and manufacturing hub, as well as a center for education and culture. The city has expanded beyond the original peninsula through land reclamation and municipal annexation. Its rich history attracts many tourists, with Faneuil Hall alone drawing more than 20 million visitors per year. Boston's many firsts include the United States' first public park, first public or state school, First subway system. That's cool. I didn't know that. I did not know that. Let's look at that. Tremont Street subway. Wow. There's a lot more history in these cities than there are in the western cities. Let's look at this picture. Those look like streetcars. That is so old school. Anyway. Okay, so today, Boston is a thriving center of economic research. The Boston area's many colleges and universities make it a world leader in higher education, including law, medicine, engineering, and business. And the city is considered to be a global pioneer in innovation and entrepreneurship with nearly 5,000 startups. Boston's economic base also includes finance, professional and business services, biotechnology, information technology, and government activities. Households in the city claim the highest average rate of philanthropy in the United States. Businesses and institutions rank among the top in the country for environmental sustainability and investment. The city has one of the highest costs of living in the United States and has undergone gentrification, though it remains high on world livability rankings. Oh man, I want to visit Boston. Small native communities throughout what became Boston who likely moved between winter homes inland along the Charles River. Okay, so out of the many events, so in 1770, during the Boston Massacre, British troops shot into a crowd that had started to violently harass them. The colonists compelled the British to withdraw their troops. The event was widely publicized and fueled a revolutionary movement in America. And then there was the Tea Act. Boston Tea Party, where a group of angered Bostonian citizens threw an entire shipment of tea sent by the East India Company into Boston Harbor. You know, this is something that's very famous that even us Canadians are aware of. We know what went down. American history is like, I think it's better understood in Canada than Canadian history, to be honest. Because Canadian history doesn't really, like, there's not much going on in Canada. Okay, so in the siege of Boston, the New England militia impeded movement of the British Army. British captured Charleston Peninsula. Okay, so apparently they have a dense network of railroads. So we're going to look into that, I think. Boston was an early port of the Atlantic triangular slave trade. course, on September 1850 as part of the Compromise of 1850 between Southern interests in slavery and Northern free soilers. Okay. I'm not going to go too much into the history. I just thought that this was kind of, the revolutionary stuff is kind of interesting. Wow. Again, it's pictures like this that make me want to visit Back Bay. That would be, pretty sure that is right here. This neighborhood. Oh, sorry, you can't see. I should take this off. Yeah, so this is the Back Bay neighborhood, as far as I know, from what I've learned. Let's switch back to Wikipedia here. You know, it's really funny. Boston is sometimes called the city of neighborhoods. When I was living in Toronto, Canada, they said the exact same thing about Toronto. The city of neighborhoods. So I think all cities are cities of neighborhoods. If you consider the fact that every city has a multitude of individually named neighborhoods. It's funny because a lot of those names for neighborhoods are developed by real estate marketers in combination with with city planners. Like if you look at, again, I'm going to jump over to another city, but in Toronto, you have this neighborhood here called the Beaches, right? Because there's beaches. And then a little bit higher up, you have what they call the Upper Beaches. And it's nowhere near the beach, but they call it the Upper Beaches because some real estate marketer decided, we can sell, more homes if we call it the Upper Beaches. And so they managed to name it the Upper Beaches, or get it named the Upper Beaches. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it went down. We're gonna do some street viewing. Look at some pictures first. Okay. Oh yes, this bridge here. It was part of the Big Dig project, I believe. There was a big dig. You can see here that there's like this linear park. Well, it's kind of a park, but there used to be an elevated freeway here. And it had cut off the north end from the rest of the city. And it was actually a blight on the neighborhood, according to, most urban planners, most urbanists. They consider elevated freeways to be blight. And so they bored a tunnel instead and demolished the structure, and now there's a linear park here. It's quite fascinating how they do that. They did it in Seattle as well. Okay, little Chinatown. So transportation. Another thing that I am interested in here, Logan International Airport in East Boston. Transportation in Boston. strangely structured. Logan International Airport in East Boston, and operated by the Massachusetts Port Authority, is Boston's principal airport. Nearby general aviation airports are Beverly Municipal Airport to the north, Hanscom Field to the west, and Norwood Memorial Airport to the south. Okay, so Boston's downtown streets grew organically, so they do not form a planned grid, which is really great, unlike those in later developed Back Bay and East Boston, which we will show. The South End and South Boston. Boston is the eastern terminus of the I-90, in which Massachusetts runs along the Massachusetts Turnpike. I've heard of this term before. It's a toll highway in the U.S. state. Okay. Cool. The Big Dig substantially completed in early 2006. Yeah, okay. The central artery, which carried most of the through traffic in downtown Boston, was replaced with the O'Neill Tunnel during the Big Dig. Substantially completed in 2006. The former and current central artery follow I-93 as a primary north-south artery from the city. Nearly a third of Bostonians using public transit for their commute to work. Boston has the fourth highest rate of public transit usage in the country. Nice. Higher than average percentage of households without a car. Oldest underground rapid transit system in the Americas. Is the fourth busiest rapid transit system in the country. A lot of pedestrian commuters as well. Very high walk scores, I imagine. They have a bike sharing system. Looks like this. It's quite common these days. Okay, I like it very much. So, let's pop over to the map. Where to start? As excited as I am about Boston, what I know about it is I know about what Kevin Lynch wrote about. I know about Jane Jacobs' experience with the North End, and I know about the existence of, I think MIT is here and Harvard is here as well, and I know it's old. I know about the Big Dig, so, there's some interesting things to talk about here. But yeah, so let's start with the Big Dig here. So right here, we have this highway, which it's huge. Look how, that's a big highway. Anyway, so there's a big interchange here, and then it goes underground right here. Curves along here, and it used to sit above, it used to be an elevated freeway through this part. I don't know if it was always a tunnel here or not, but it definitely was elevated here, and you can see that they've replaced it with some greenery and a series of small urban parks. Of course, they still have these ramps everywhere, which kind of get in the way, but it is a substantial improvement from the previous elevated highway, and it appears as though this building here is new. I'm not sure if it was carried constructing. That looks like an old rail bridge right there for the metro system. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so it looks like they closed the metro system to, I guess, extend or do something with this end of it. Perhaps this is a station right here. Now it looks like it's not even a metro anymore because look, it just kind of links up with the track system here. So that is interesting. I wonder if they use the same wheelbase on their rolling stock for both the long haul trains and the subway. That would be a very unique situation for sure. But here's, I guess, that rail system that they were referring to, and it looks like it's going through a bit of a construction overhaul here. Looks like they're retaining this so they can add tracks or stations or something. Wow. Honestly, it looks like a widening project where they're widening the entire length of the right-of-way. At least to this point. Cool. That's very cool. It's always good to see investment in rail projects. I wonder if there's any other areas where we can see elevated rail. Okay, here's some more. It's a cool little station here. An old ass bridge. And then it goes underground again. Okay. Oh, that's kind of strange right there. How they have these roads that they built out into the water to get under the bridge. Engineers, man. Engineers. Anyway, so the downtown area, I really want to get some street view, but I don't know where to start. Like, I know this neighborhood here is what they call the North End. It is at least it used to be a lower income neighborhood, and Jane Jacobs talks a lot about it in her book, The Life and Death of, or The Death and Life of Great American Cities. She talks about how, despite the very low income nature of this neighborhood, it was thriving for a while there. I don't know if it's been completely gentrified yet, but she talks about, what does she talk about? Talks about how, like, the structure of the family and the community kept everybody sort of in check, like a natural policing system in the absence of good resources provided by the municipality. But anyway, I don't know the exact details, but she speaks very fondly of this neighborhood and its history and the community aspect to it, which I don't know. I don't know if it continues to exist. What is this? That almost looks like a temporary bridge. That's hilarious. There used to be a bridge here, I guess, or they're rebuilding a bridge, so they built a temporary one. That seems crazy, but whatever. diversity, I think, in Boston when it comes to architecture. You know, not a serious amount of diversity, like difference, but still. Okay, so one thing I've noticed is that the street view has painted lines, but oh wow, look at that beautiful parking structure. But the Google Earth imagery does not have painted lines, so that's really what I wanted to see here. Atlantic Avenue, Milk Street. But yeah, look at that ugly ass concrete box. Compare it to that. Yeah, I think you get what I'm trying to say there. This parking lot is disgustingly ugly. Let's plop down into what looks to be the financial district. We're gonna go right there. There's some ugly 1970s architecture in here. I don't know what this is. You know, some of it's nice, some of it, you know, is respectable. This one here, Bank of America, I don't know. It just seems a little bit too imposing, you know. At least there's a nice amount of sidewalk space here. You know, my guess, I actually have no idea. I've never seen this building before, but my guess is the city probably had some requirement for setbacks to increase the pedestrian space. So the actual property line is right here where this little curb is, and it carries across, and so everything on this side where the sidewalk is public space. Everything on that side is private space. And the city probably has a setback requirement for buildings in this area, newer buildings. And so the architect probably designed it to accommodate the setback, but then they wanted to maximize their leasable office space above that. So they did that. They built it out like that, which is quite common, I think. I think we can see a little bit more of it over here. Yeah, don't quote me on any of this, because I'm just, like, off the cuff here, but look at this one. This one, I think, actually goes out over the street a little bit. Like, what's with that? And look at the shadow it produces, too. I could live in a city like this. It reminds me of New York in a lot of ways. Just the compactness, the architecture, the fact that the streets are so narrow in some places and wide in other places. Lots to look at, lots to see, lots of different things around. What's this color I see? What was that, like an old right turn lane that they turned into a bike lane or something? Let's see. It looks like a bike lane almost now. Not sure what this park anyways, let's bring out the labels and the places. Parkman Bandstand, Freedom Trail, Boston Common, that's what that's called, okay. It's kind of nice how they have a park there. So Beacon Hill, this is Beacon Hill right here. Which makes sense because it's on a hill. Look at that. There's a church here at the bottom. Let's drop our little man in there. Look at this. I like these little compact neighborhoods. What's this Louisburg Square here? I don't understand why there's a fence. That part I don't understand. Why can't you just walk in there? That seems a little bit unnecessary. Got this very nice waterfront here. Anyways, we got Back Bay. You know, I first heard of Back Bay when I was learning about Kevin Lynch and his 5 elements. So I guess I'll just jump into it. Kevin Lynch was either a geographer or a planner. I think he was a geographer. Oh, he was an urban designer and town planner. Okay, and he wrote a book. So he wrote a book, and in the book, he details some elements of what makes a city, or elements regarding the imageability of a city. So what makes a city memorable? And those elements are paths, edges, districts, nodes, and landmarks. And paths are streets, sidewalks, trails, and other channels in which people travel. He noted that paths are often the predominant elements in people's image, with the other elements being arranged and related along paths. And so, maybe I should give a bit of backstory here. So, he was thinking about the imageability in people's minds of cities. So what do people remember? What do people see when they think of Boston? What do people see when they think of New York or New Jersey or, you know, these cities? And so they see paths, edges, districts, nodes, and landmarks. So I've explained paths, but edges are like barriers, like that highway that I talked about, or a coastline, or a fence that we just saw around that little park there. They're more or less penetrable, which close one region off from another, or they may be seams, lines along which two regions are related and joined together. Districts are areas characterized by common characteristics, like Back Bay is a district, the North End is a district, the financial district is a district. Observers mentally are either inside and or have some common identifying character. Okay, let me reread that. These are the medium to large areas which observers mentally enter inside of and or have some common identifying character. Distinctive physical characteristics might include thematic continuities such as texture, space, form, detail, symbol, and building. Nodes are the strategic spots in the city into which an observer can enter, and which are the intensive foci, and from which the person is traveling. So that would be like a particular intersection or a shopping mall or something like that. A landmark is a key physical characteristic that landmarks, key physical characteristics was singularity, some aspect that is unique or memorable in the context, like the CN Tower or the Eiffel Tower or the Empire State Building or something like that. Towers, spires, hills are distant and are typically seen from many angles and from distance. Over the top of smaller elements, other landmarks, sculptures, signs, and trees are primarily local, being visible only in restricted localities and from certain approaches. So what Kevin Lynch did is he asked many people to draw maps from memory of places like Boston, places like New York, places like New Jersey, or Los Angeles, and draw them in terms of these 5 elements. Draw all the paths you remember, draw all the edges you remember, draw all the districts you remember, the nodes and the landmarks, and try to stick with these definitions. And he then used these elements to measure the imageability, how memorable in the mind is a city, how distinct is it from other cities. And he found that places like Boston, this is his book, by the way, he found that places like Boston had a high imageability, where people actually remembered where things were. They could draw the layout quite accurately. And places like New Jersey, they couldn't, because New Jersey has a low imageability. It's quite spotty. So this is the famous image of Boston. So you got Back Bay here, you got Beacon Hill here, the financial district, and the North End, waterfront, all of these areas. And they are all quite easily represented from memory. But if we do if we look at New Jersey, that's the famous image of New Jersey. Right there. And you can see that there's just less going on. People remember less. Like if you look at this is the Boston one again. So that's like, I guess, a progression. So that's the Boston one. This is Jersey. What's this one? Los Angeles. Look how little people actually know about Los Angeles. They might see the highways, they might just have like an idea of where downtown is, but they don't understand the relationships between these places, because they tend to drive a lot around the city. And so each point is kind of on its own. It's like it has no relationship to other places. Everything is free-floating in some sense in a place like Los Angeles, because you have the car, you have total freedom. Whereas in a place like Boston, everything is quite tightly packed. Everything is close together. You understand the relationships between the landmarks, the paths, and the nodes, and how it all comes together. You know everything that's between the 2 points. You know what's along the entire path in detail, because when you walked along it, you absorbed that information. But when you're driving, you're focused on signage, you're focused on other drivers, you're focused on what speed are you going, and everything just looks the same. And then they have to put up these massive signs just to get your attention, for advertising and things like that. And driving just kind of, it stole that richness from the experience of moving around the city. It stole that away and replaced it with a used to be less imageable. Alright, so my apologies. I am doing a second take here because I recorded the last 10 or 15 minutes of the video without changing the window that was being shown in the recording. So I was rambling about the map while the video was only showing the Wikipedia page for Boston. So I decided a couple days later, which is today, to start again. Well, not start again, but just sort of try to finish off the video in a similar way to how I did it before. If I remember correctly, we've already looked at Back Bay. We still need to take a look at this MIT area. We might have already looked at Harvard. And what else? There's some suburban stuff I wanted to take a look at. We might actually make this a little bit longer than I had previously recorded, simply because I think last session I was a little bit more, well, an hour was kind of a long time, so, but now I get to start fresh, so there might be some, like if I look with some fresh eyes, I might find things that strike me as worth looking at. Like this, I never noticed this highway here. How it just goes right underneath this like downtown, or maybe you could call this like uptown, Prudential, whatnot. I didn't know that was there. Links up over here and continues on this way. Okay. That's another thing. Look at how tight these interchanges are. Like, what is all this? They really integrated the highway into the environment in a much more effective way in Boston than in any other American cities. And here as well, look how tight this is. And look at that, they stuck mostly to right-of-ways that already existed. Well, maybe not mostly, but you can tell that they attempted to stick to the industrial areas and the more, like, the areas that were just more suited to the highway. But I'm sure it still caused massive destruction either way when they built it. Let's take a look at MIT campus. One thing that came up was this Broadway. I think this street is Broadway, and this street is Main Street. And it makes sense, because look how main it is. So this building, the Stata Center, I don't know what I think about it. I think it almost seems like a kind of a middle finger to celebration of something, or do you think it's more of an FU? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments, but this Stata Center, I don't think I buy into it, architecturally. Honestly, other than that, it does seem like a pretty typical downtown campus. Of course, it's an elite institution, but I wonder if all of this is considered MIT, Area 2 MIT. And of course they have a hotel, because the university probably draws in a lot of people from all over the country and even the world, I'm sure. And then of course you have Harvard University here. I don't know if we already looked at Harvard, but I kind of want to street view in here a little bit. Alright. And then you have Harvard. What do they call this? Harvard Square. Kind of a cool little area. Curved streets and whatnot. I'd love to spend some time here. Oh, what is going on? Okay, well, it's telling us to stop. Looking at Harvard, I guess. So you got MIT here, and we've got Harvard here, and it looks like Harvard also has a lot of athletics over here. That's my guess. Maybe it's some old industrial land, I'm not sure. What is this meandering street here? I didn't know they had streetcars, but it appears that they do. Anyway, I'd like to check out some of these suburbs, if they are available. Yes, they are. Some big estates here. Reminds me of Shaughnessy in Vancouver, or Bridle Path in Toronto. It's so old, like everything is kind of grown in, Black Lives Matter. Something that has always been strange to me about centers, and then you just have this strange pattern of random homes. I wonder why that is. Like, why isn't all of this just developed? Like, just, like, why does the forest even still exist? Why haven't they developed it? Did these developers buy up land around their developments to make sure that they were more private? I'm not sure. Or maybe there's just really strict planning regulations. I'm not sure. That's Providence. Okay, here's Boston. Okay. So, anyway, let's see how many highways they have. They got one highway, two highways, three, four, going into the city, maybe five. This one looks rather interesting because it's got this bridge. And then all of a sudden it does this weird curve here. Like they really fit it into the landscape in a way that was like you could tell, like obviously most highways, if they were following the path of least resistance, like let's say it was a greenfield development, they would have built this highway straight. But because all of these suburbs were already here, they had to optimize for the existing neighborhoods, which tells me that these neighborhoods were rather wealthy at the time, because if they were not wealthy, they would have been demolished, like in New York and Chicago and other major cities in North America. That's cool, little traffic circle. And another one. This one's interesting because the road goes right through, but you have the option to go around the loop as well. It's very cool. I kind of want to check out this neighborhood a little bit. This is my kind of neighborhood, seriously. I love the row houses, I love the corridor type streets, and then they open up onto these public squares, and of course these are kind of fenced off, which again, I don't understand it, but I love the tree-lined tight streets. And what about the beach? What's going on at the beach here? What kind of development do we see here? You know, another thing about these northeastern cities is the amount of brick everywhere. You don't see buildings made out of brick in West Coast cities all that often. Maybe San Francisco is an exception. But even there, I really don't see a lot of red brick. I remember growing up, I would read a lot of like children's books and watched cartoons and things, and the red brick building was a staple in all of these depictions of, you know, childhood and just, you know, life. But I never, ever really saw red brick buildings, but for some reason my brain became attached to the idea of red brick as being a standard, simply because of the media that I was consuming as a child. And then I went to these places like Toronto, Ottawa, New York, and it just hit me. I was like, wow, this is that classic experience that a lot of kids have that I never had. And it kind of of threw me off a little bit because, we just don't have that in the West. Here's the airport. Looks like they extended the runway just a little bit there. There's a highway that goes under. Where does it come out? Right here. Okay, I didn't see that one before. Wow, okay. And that goes back under, or what? Where does that go? Yeah, it goes back under there. And comes out here, I guess. Okay. Strange. I didn't notice that before. They got a port here as well. Look at that. Container port, but I don't think Boston is the biggest in the East for that. I'm not sure which city is. My guess is New Jersey or New York or something like that. And look at that. They have another highway here. And it must connect somewhere. Let me turn on roads here. Okay, it just connects underground to the Big Dig. Okay. Wow, okay. So they really do have a highway network. It's just not that easy to see because a lot of it's underground. But look how tightly developed Boston is compared to, like, New York. New York is absolutely insane. I'm not gonna change the scale, just look at this. New York and Long Island is developed all the way out into the Hamptons and whatnot. Like, all the way out. And Jersey's developed like all of this. And I'm not gonna change the scale. You come over here, that's Providence and that's Boston. And I know New York has like 21 million people in its metro area, or 23 million or something, or wait, maybe it was 17 million, I can't remember. But Boston has like 4 million, and it looks so tight. Of course, you do have all of this development in here, which, if you go, like, if we go up to Canada, you're not gonna see nearly as much of that. Look how much more compact things are in Canada. We've preserved a lot of our farmland. We've definitely made sure that the development stays urban, and there's not a lot of like patchwork development. Toronto's a little bit different, but for the most part, it's more clean. Of course, in Europe, it's even more so, I think. Like, they're very clear-cut with their development. Maybe less so around Manchester and London. I think Germany's like that too. Netherlands. Oh wow, actually, look at this. This is surprising. There's a lot of random developments. But you know what? That could just be a relic of the past when villages were spread out a little bit more densely because there was no means of traveling far distances to sell your goods in the city. If you were like an agriculturist, like a farmer. But I think that these areas were developed in a similar way because these are pre-automobile perhaps that could be an explanation for why there's so much random development at these, like, intersections. Alright, so I think that's gonna wrap us up for today. I think that I've covered everything I can think to cover. I'm sure I'm missing something, but oh wow, look at you can see the railroad network if you turn on the roads. That's cool, that's very cool. But anyway, yeah, I'm sure I'm missing something, but we've been going at it for quite some time now, so just want to thank you for watching, and I hope that you found it relaxing. And I apologize if my energy was a little high. I was very excited